everybody, and welcome to another episode of Upshift Creek, the Formula One podcast that tries to bring the fun Formula One fans for Formula One fans. We just got done watching the Belgian Grand Prix, and it was a monster weekend, so we're going to have to get into it. My name is Ollie Pettigrew, and as always, I'm joined by amazing co-hosts Ryan Sandler, Nick Calderon. Welcome to the show.
Zoom, zoom, brothers. Where's your energy level, Ollie? You sound like low energy after a pretty darn good race.
It's been a long weekend, I'll tell you that much. Not only have I been doing my other podcast, I was out late drinking cocktails last night with the missus, and it's Nick's favorite thing, a sprint weekend. So it's been like three straight days of F1, man. I'm exhausted.
I didn't do any of what sounds like that fun stuff, but man, I feel like I watched an entire season of racing in just 2 or 3 days. This was insane.
You binge Drive to Survive.
Yeah, I feel like I did a 24-hour of Le Mans or something. It's just nonstop racing.
So, I mean, well, before we get into it, you know, the ups and downs of what happened on the weekend. Nick, you're not the biggest fan of sprint weekends. How did you feel about this one?
My feelings of not being the biggest fan of sprint weekends were confirmed yet again.
Yeah.
When we went out for like 5 parade laps and 11 racing laps because of the weather, and it's silly. It's silly. I get what we're trying to do. We're trying to provide more racing action for the fans. You know, I agree that Friday practice can be quite dull and pointless unless you're a race team trying to gather data.
Yeah.
But it just, no, I still don't like it.
I'm starting to turn to, even for what started out as like, ooh, more races for me. It just felt a little daunting and confusing and kind of unnecessary. But
see,
maybe it was just this weekend.
Well, the thing is, right, because I had so many bloody notes. Because one thing that you can always like kind of rely on in Spa is for the weather to get interesting. I mean, we've had a race rained off, we've had races delayed, and we turned up on Friday qualifying. I remember, like, I texted you guys, "Oh shit, guys, it's a sprint weekend. Qualifying's in like 40 minutes."
Yeah. Thanks for the heads up, by the way. There's no way I would have known that.
Yeah, and thanks for the heads up, because I completely got absolutely nothing done at work on Friday morning, which was well, it's kind of great.
Yeah. So you're welcome.
Yeah, thanks.
Hopefully the bosses don't watch the show. So qualifying, we log in for qualifying on Friday. It was moist, and so was I, because you've got to like wet conditions. It certainly throws a spanner into everyone's plans.
Definitely makes it more exciting. And if I have to, what I don't like is it kind of forces me to do math about tire strategy, which is the kind of the furthest thing from my mind when watching one of these races.
You could just watch the race like I do.
Yeah, that's
Ryan,
what I'm trying to do.
Look at them go fast.
That's what I'm trying to do. Like, once the race is over, my brain is like, all right, I can delete this from my cloud storage and move on with my life.
Or you could go to work for Ferrari, where strategy just doesn't seem to matter.
God damn.
They'd love to have you.
Yeah,
I'm sure they bloody would, actually.
Ferrari, if you're listening, I'm available.
So everyone's kind of going out on inters. It's not fully wet. It's not fully dry. It's kind of greasy conditions. And pretty much from the get-go in qualifying, it was kind of the start of an up and down weekend for McLaren, because we had Norris. Norris lost it. He went out into the gravel. He kind of broke off his front wing. He damaged his floor, because the conditions are just so unpredictable that by the end of Q1, 90% of the drivers were still out on track. And it was hard to keep up with the timing screens of just constant movement of everybody. You're like, where is anybody right now?
And the margin between them.
Keeping that in mind, like we make fun of strategy, and we like to think, you know, oh, we could do better with strategy. But if we're watching the timing sheets tumble and change with every evolution, every lap, every second of that track, imagine what must it be like for someone who does do strategy calculations, not Ferrari, somebody who does, you know, like a Red Bull team or an Aston Martin team or Mercedes. That must be just such a hectic couple of minutes trying to work out where you place somebody out on the track, where you try and sandbag a little bit, where you try and send it, where you harvest power, what tires, and then just trying to time it just right so you cross the line at the last possible moment, because the track evolves every second.
Right? Now, it's a good point, especially when you're then trying to slot that car in, especially during Q1 with the 19 other cars that are out on track. And then also, like, I guess the one advantage of Spa is it's a really long track. Yeah. Because there are other tracks where, like, all right, if you don't tell the driver in the next 30 seconds, he's already half a lap past where he needed to know. Yeah. You know, so at least in Spa, it's like a 7-kilometer track.
And I thought that it was just due to the weather being so extreme that the lap times were so long, but no, it's just an insanely long track.
Yeah, it's a monster. Like, so if something goes on, like if you get a puncture or something on Spa and you've got to sort of limp back, you might as well just pull off to the side and walk home, because you're going to lose so much time.
And speaking of punctures, once again, man, we have had so few technical issues, tire punctures, yellow flag, any of it. And here we are now approaching mid-season break, and I mean, it has been devoid of any of those kinds of dramas.
So I guess a little round of applause to the engineers at Formula One. Well done. And Pirelli, well done as well. Much will we like the drama. I mean, still well done. I think the only big sort of like real drama of Q1 was Danny Rick put in a monster time. He was up to 6th. And then as the checkered flag comes down, he gets track limits and he drops back down to like 16, 17. So that was a real shame. And Norris made it through by the skin of his teeth as well. He was just there.
I don't want to get into Danny Rick just yet, but I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in the Honey Badger.
Well, Q2, this is the one thing I enjoyed all through the weekend pretty much, is that never at any point were conditions just one thing. They were constantly shifting, even like when it got to the final race. But in Q2, it starts to dry. The question is, who's going to go onto slicks? Ocon, he goes into the wall. The corner with no name, which ironically is a name. But it's a proper shunt as well. I was surprised. I mean, Nick, there you go. But when you saw Ocon, he's got damage to his front wing, you're pretty sure, he must have clipped something. And then they play the replay, and it's like he just went full on into the wall sideways.
You just see the explosion.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to not get too far ahead. Keep that in mind. Keep the race in mind where Alonso launched his Aston Martin and came crashing back down and continued. And then when we get into the race, let's talk about that first lap drama between Sainz and Norris, or Sainz and Piastri. And let's try and wrap your head around all of that.
You're so right. Actually, let's just talk about it, because you're damn right. Is that when Piastri barely kissed the wall, as he's created, like he's the filling of a Sainz sandwich. That breaks the car, but Ocon can hit the wall at 120 miles an hour and be fine.
It made no sense to me. I started coming up with all kinds of conspiracy theories in my head, because how is it possible that tiny little graze somehow, it looked like a tiny little graze. Clearly it wasn't, because Sainz has got a hole in his side pod that caused 5% aero decay, and Piastri somehow just was done.
I think my theory on it is the outside of that corner, the no-name corner, you've got sort of Aramco, you've got that, it's got a bit of buffeting to it, whereas the inside of that hardcore hairpin on turn 1 looks pretty solid. So I think there's no give on that wall, and the only give was Piastri's suspension.
But during the replay, if you zoom in and slow it down, you can see Sainz pushing a button on his steering wheel, and a speed racer type of spike comes out of the side and just obliterates his side pod.
I saw that. And you're right, Ryan.
I missed that. That's why I've got to be the Sky Class, Sky Q customer. I've got to hit that red button. I've got to watch from the perspective of these drivers. I would have seen that.
Somehow it got past the stewards. I can't believe it.
They're in on it, man. It's obvious.
Then it got kind of interesting at the end of Q2, because we had Leclerc and Verstappen both in sort of like the drop zone. And Verstappen's 10th. I'm like, I like for 1 second, I was so excited. It came so close. But that then sort of created it. This is something that was coined by Ryan, so credit to Ryan. But we're going to be talking a lot about Sass Verstappen this weekend, because Sass Verstappen turned up and he was pissed.
Mhm.
I'm 10th. I'm 10th. I shouldn't be 10th yet. They're like, you're through, Max. It's not okay. I'm the champion and I'm 10th. I shouldn't be in 10th. And I'm like, woo.
Yeah.
As
Well,
much as people hate that about Max is as much as I love it.
Yeah.
That is the true sign of a bloodthirsty champion that wants to stop at absolutely nothing. Nothing but the best is good enough for him.
Yeah.
And I love it. Give me more of that.
But now I was wondering, watching this race especially, I'm like, there's a fine line between driver confidence and just complete hubris. So I mean, is he going to have his like Icarus moment where he flies too close to the sun? And
Dude.
Of course he will.
burn out?
Yes.
Well, we let's we definitely have to talk about that, because he's setting himself up to just wreck a race from sheer hubris, because the balls on this guy. We will get to it, because it's him and GP, his race
engineer, Jean-Pierre Lambiase. Yeah.
It was like this passive aggressive married couple all weekend on the radio with each other, and he's just so like patient with Max, and Max is just being such a grumpy. You know?
He even, it was a Crofty that even said, he's like, everyone watching is waiting with bated breath to hear Max's response to the radio. I'm like, oh, even I'm like, oh boy, this is.
Well, there's an interesting power dynamic going on in the best team in the sport right now. Is Max Verstappen the de facto boss of the team because he's such a great driver? No, he's not. There's still a management structure in place, and there's still guys that are there who are paid to make decisions, who know better, who have more information than the driver in the seat. But it sounds like those two dynamics keep butting heads, and I can't wait to see when it does finally erupt.
And in my mind too, I'm like, he's the one in the car. Like, he has to know what's going on, and he can, like, he feels what the tires are doing, and he knows, so he knows what he can push and do.
Yeah, but like we were kind of saying, you've also got.
But don't be a dick about it.
Yeah, exactly. But you've got your 19. You got 19 corners, 7 kilometers. Sorry, 19 tracks, cars on track as well. Other cars that you've got to just understand that, kind of like what Nick's saying. There are a bunch of people with a bunch of computers and algorithms. So just, Max, please do what we tell you. No.
Yeah. It's a crazy thing. I
think Max gets away with a lot more. He's been given a lot more lead than most drivers because of, well, what he can do. And, he's seemingly a magician out on track, finding pace beyond even his teammate in the same machinery. So
I always think about sort of Ted Lasso, whenever it's like, no, don't worry. He's not being mean. He's just being Dutch. Oh, okay. He's Dutch.
I have to ask, has there, and maybe I'm sure there has there been like a season where one driver has won every single race?
Every race? I don't think. We're rapidly approaching that reality.
Okay, that's why I asked. I didn't know if that's happened before, because in my mind, I'm like, we could be witnessing, something spectacular here.
I mean, a perfect season? That would be, I mean, a sight to see. Though, have you seen that, like, recent news that American audiences, they've lost 300,000 viewers with Max's dominance? It's like, it's like, oh, they got introduced to Formula One just at the right time. But it's like, also, guys, sometimes this happens. Sometimes it's just a driver on another level.
And I think they just haven't framed the storyline right. I think you really have to get in there. And I've said so many times on this show, you guys are sick of hearing it. We're watching greatness. And watching greatness can be pretty awesome. So I think they really just have to try and reframe some of the broadcasts, because even you hear the commentators, Crofty and Brundle, sometimes ho-humming Max's dominance. I have heard some spots in their broadcasts where they bring up the fact that this is something quite special. I think they have to just lean in on that.
It's a fine line.
I think Ryan, I think you're right, mate. I think that's the frame. I think is what Ryan said is, hey, this could be the perfect season. It's kind of like if you ever watch somebody pitch a perfect game, it's the most boring thing that ever happened in baseball. But also, everyone goes nuts at the end.
Until the 9th inning, and then you're like, all right, I'm into it now.
So it was interesting because it was kind of wet out there. The McLarens are really quick in the wet. The Ferraris are racy. Pole very much up for grabs. And then, as we're talking about it, Max Verstappen right at the end casually puts 0.8 seconds on everybody. You're there feeling like, look how close it is. And he goes, there's a bit more on my accelerator. There you go. So he does destroy everybody to take pole, but because he's changed his power unit, he's got a 5-place penalty. So he drops down. So it ends up, the final lineup was Leclerc on pole with Perez, Hamilton, Sainz, and Piastri in 5th.
Now I have to ask, with that power unit, did he know that he was going to incur a penalty?
Yeah.
Or did they try and okay, so he knew that was coming regardless?
Yeah, so those rules are in place. They know what's going to happen when they take those extra parts and stuff. That's all plays into strategy as well. You'll see other teams do that as the year goes on. Yeah. And it's like, okay, I'm not sure why they changed the gearbox on his car. Did they detect an issue? He didn't have any kind of shunts or anything. So
I'm not sure. But I think the interesting thing is there is Ryan, I remember this is one time last season or the season before, but there are certain tracks that are really, really easy to overtake on, or a certain dominant for certain cars. So we saw a time when everybody, it was ridiculous. There was 8 different cars that all took the power unit penalty. So they're so we can have a fresh engine, so we can just hammer it on this one. So people will do it tactically.
Okay.
It's kind of up there. What I found quite interesting is that by the end of Q3, I realized that it was a 2x2 for Red Bull, Merc, Ferrari, McLaren, Aston.
Yeah.
So it was the top 5 teams, both of their cars. It was really kind of showing what they did. And then I completely forgot what happened in qualifying, which is why I had to go back and rewatch it, because then we get to the sprint weekend. We wake up on Saturday and we're like, you ready? Are you ready for more? Because we're going to do the shootout and then we're going to do the race. I log in to watch the shootout late. Thank God I do, because it's soaking, and so was I. We had a delayed start to the sprint shootout. So fortunately for me, I was in bed. I just got my laptop out. And I'm fast forward. And I almost got to live.
Yeah, I couldn't believe I was halfway through the timeline. I'm like, what?
That's why I like watching my races on a slight delay, because anything like that just means you fast forward through it all. And
also, waking up at 3 a.m. to watch the race live is bananas.
Only if the championship's on the line will I be doing that.
Fair.
Yeah. You were a podcast. I thought you were a Formula One podcast host, Ryan. Come on, man. You got to put in the time, baby.
I got to sleep, man.
So it was kind of a almost deja vu. SQ1, Norris almost goes off again. He has a very he had himself a real moment. Everybody is tiptoeing around on Inters. I think the big screw up of all of the weekend, I think, with SQ1 is that Hulkenberg doesn't even make the line.
Oh, that was brutal.
A chance
that
to
was
put
brutal.
in a time. Haas
and it seemed like he was so close to getting to the line to put a lap on, and then to be dashed immediately. And then to have to drive for 2 minutes around slowly, God damn it. Yeah.
My bad. So he didn't sound pretty happy. George, he had a bit of a monster lockup. But by the end of SQ1, again, people are just shifting all over the place. SQ2, we had Logan Sargent do a pretty nice pirouette. He's a nice dance there, pretty respectable 360. Mm-hmm. It starts drying though, and that's the kind of thing that was really interesting, because with all those cars out, you start getting what was it that Brundle was calling it? It was the goat, something or other. It's he's as long as you keep it inside that, you're fine. So who's going to be the brave one to put on slicks? Lance Stroll, because he can't lose his seat because Daddy's paying the bills. Yeah. He gets some mediums and he goes into the wall maximum.
Yeah, that was. I mean, that turn, it sucked. It looked like it looked like he was driving on ice in that turn. Yeah, and it was such a bummer. He turned,
the car did not, and he was doing all right. I will give him credit. Yeah. He was kind of paying off, but he could tell. He goes, "Oh, it's too early." A couple of these corners, and that was the problem, because then he sort of screwed Ricardo, he screwed Alonso, he screwed Albon, who had all sort of stayed in the pits till the last minute, and that's always the risk if you don't have a banker time. Something like that happened.
And he was kind of the last driver I was hoping to take that gamble and putting slicks on. I thought even the commentary, they were hoping, is Ricardo going to do it? Is he going to go? Is he going to go? You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts.
Let's get nuts.
I was hoping for it, and sadly it was Stroll, and it did not work out.
And that put an end to SQ2 because there was only 20 seconds left on the timer anyway. And then SQ3, pretty mixed conditions. It even gets to the point where Max got the hurry up. You don't often hear that come over the radio, but it's Max, pick up the pace. Yeah. Everybody else is kind of doing this right now, and everyone's putting in some pretty good time. Verstappen makes it with the skin of his teeth by 2 seconds. He almost pulls the Hulkenberg. And then it was really, really exciting because Piastri was holy shit quick. And he's gone top. And for 5 whole seconds, we're all thrilled because Verstappen's You know, he's not putting in his fastest lap. But I don't know what this wizard of a driver does, but he finds all this time in the final sector, every lap. And he goes from like, oh, it's Piastri to, oh, never mind. Max makes it by 100th. I will give him that. Only just gets it. But I was like, everyone's deflated immediately.
It makes you think, like, is the every time he's on the track, is he just taking it? Is he only operating at like 80%? And then when he really needs to kick it into gear, he's like, oh shit. And then he just switches it on.
It does seem like that sometimes, doesn't it? He goes, oh, fine, I'll drive.
Yeah. He's got DRS IRL.
Well, that's a pretty good one, I see. So it ends up with Verstappen top, Piastri second, Sainz third, Leclerc fourth, Norris fifth, Gasly sixth as well. That was a pretty solid performance. But everyone is talking about the stud that is Piastri, especially when it comes to the sprint race, because the rain returns. They were like, I don't know, just like, we just turn the sprinklers on and off. That's why I've always said that F1 would be great if we had sprinkler systems that would just come on randomly. I think that would be brilliant. You could do it with voting online and stuff like that.
That would be fun, yeah. You know, one of the guys at work actually brought up a really good idea. Instead of doing sprint qualifying, they should just run the track backwards.
Yeah. The only
Wouldn't that be fun?
It would be, but the pits don't work. That's why they said they didn't do it. Like, because that was something that's thrown out during coronavirus. And they were like, yeah, but the problem is the pit lane doesn't work. So it's really dangerous.
Who needs a pit lane?
I think they should just grab a name out of a hat and then they all have to drive in their opponent's cars.
Oh, yeah. I would. There should be one sprint race every year where that happens. It's like no points. It's just for fun. I think it would be kind of like that. It'd be like, it's the Christmas race. Everybody gets mixed up, you know, pull out of a hat. And it's like, oh, Max Verstappen's in a Williams. That's going to be great.
Yeah, right? That would not be, I mean, I feel like everyone wants to see that. I'm sure you can run simulations in whatever video game, but
I hope the FIA is watching because that is an amazing idea. And as much as you were mocking it earlier, Nick, it was so wet that we sent everybody out. It's a safety car, rolling start. They're all on full wets. But by the end of those 4 laps, it's time for inters. And this was, for me, the most interesting 2 laps of the entire weekend because everyone knows they have to go on inters, including Max Verstappen. But Max's pit box is the first one because they're champs. Yeah. But if he pits and everyone else pits, Max is going to have to wait. So as the race gets going, literally 50% of the entire grid pits. One car from each team comes into the pits, throws on the intermediates, and that's when, all right, all eyes are on Piastri now, as Max is sort of limping his way around on the wets, and he's flying around on the inters, and that's what, for me, I mean, what do you guys think about that whole moment? It was just bonkers, wasn't it?
It was a brilliant strategy by Red Bull. I mean, it was an obvious strategy, but it was really cool to see play out. And you knew Max wasn't really, he wasn't going to drop the ball here. This was going to work to his favor. It was really the only thing they could do. And it was fascinating to watch it all play out.
You get that brief glimmer of hope where you just have Max on the back foot and you don't see it very often. But even knowing that your hopes are immediately going to be dashed, still for that brief moment, you're like, hey, this is new and exciting.
See, you're looking at it wrong, Ryan. See, you got to look at it like, here is Max now faced with a challenge. And
that's what I'm saying,
he still finds a way to come out on top no matter what. There's no taking him down.
I'm not doubting that the man is just a wizard behind the wheel. It's truly incredible.
Ryan, I do believe what you're talking about in psychological terms is called denial. And we've been living there for a while. As my Scottish friend likes to say, denial's not a river in Africa. But so let's talk about, like, you've got 10 cars pitting and they all managed to do it without crashing into each other. There were definitely some close bits.
Oh, man.
One lap later, Max comes in, Piastri goes through, another 10 cars, all pit, all get away with it. But yeah, let's just talk for a moment about Piastri. Because like we talked about last week, at the beginning of the season, we weren't impressed. At the beginning of the season, there's the drama of he's supposed to go to Alpine, he goes to McLaren. But with McLaren's upgrades, we're seeing the maturity of this kid just really come through. That there he is for the first time since F2, leading a race, and he seemed calm as a Hindu cow.
Yeah, I was gonna say, even hearing his chatter on the radio, it's weirdly calm and like for him to be able to keep it together under these high pressure situations and like keep his cool, it's really impressive.
But, and you start
second only to Alonso, who at one point thanked his team.
Yeah.
It was like,
it was nice to have a little bit of that Alonso back of like, good job, guys. And like the commentators going, he's saying good job to them, but also to himself.
It's interesting to see, to look at the grid and each year wonder, okay, who's going to challenge the king? When you were watching Hamilton dominate for so many years, and you think, all right, who's going to dethrone this guy? Who's going to be the next great driver?
Michael Massey.
Right, Michael. But right now, it looks like it's very much so going to be Max. Max is the next king of the hill, and it's very early to talk about this, but who might be able to unseat Max?
Who's next Verstappen? Yeah, I mean, I want to see.
Is it Piastri?
Is it going to be like a young kid from F2 or 3 that Red Bull plucks out, just like they did from Max? And
I mean, Piastri. Like, I see your point. Then I mean, Piastri. He's got the bona fides. He certainly knows what he's doing. And
recently we were talking about Norris. Norris could be that guy. So Norris is still a very likely contender to be a damn good driver. It is interesting to see, though, Piastri giving him so much of a run for his young money.
But you're not wrong. I mean, the rumors have been circulating that Red Bull and Ferrari both got their eyes on Norris. He's a solid driver, so 100%.
Don't go to Ferrari.
Yeah, for the love of God, don't. Please. We like to see you smile, Lando. I don't want to see a cry.
They're waiting for the Audi team to come in a few years. We're like, we'll wait. We're going to weigh our options.
That's Sainz's seat already, isn't it?
Oh, man, maybe. The interesting thing about the sprint race, though, at that time, it's wet, so no DRS. And after all the pit stops are done, we've got Piastri, Verstappen, Gasly in third. So, and they're kind of like, and you've got Piastri kind of opening up a bit of a gap. You've got Verstappen holding on. They pull away from Gasly, and it's getting pretty interesting. And then, plot twist, Fernando into the wall. Another Aston into the wall. And that kind of ruined it in a way. It was a bit of a shame because, the safety car comes out and you've closed up the gap. So suddenly, and this is also where experience pays off, because we know that Max with a safety car restart is amazing. And Piastri's never been like in this position in F1 and it's at a track he's never been to. And he kind of goes early, doesn't he? His safety car restart isn't quite there and Max has got him. He's got him. By the time Eau Rouge is done, boom, Max is through.
I don't think Piastri could have done anything, whether he had the best restart ever or not. That it was inevitable, period. But I was having fun thinking about Outmar Reitnauer, watching his cars actually have a pretty decent weekend. He's probably thinking, really, now after I've been sacked?
Thanks, guys. Thanks. Yeah. Alpine, that's definitely something I put on my notes as well, is that the Alpine did wait till the last bloody minute, fire everybody, and then suddenly they're good. Like, oh, maybe we should bring these guys back. And there's no rumors about who's taking over Alpine or anything, right? Oh, that's wait. I did hear one was Binotto.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I think actually, Ali, you were kidding when you texted me about Binotto.
Oh no!
Now I've been seeing some headlines saying it could be Binotto, which, I mean, really.
It's like Alpine would be asking Ferrari's drivers what Alpine's drivers should do with the tires. Question?
I for sure thought that guy was enjoying his retirement on some vineyard somewhere.
Oh, mate, no, they're never done. They come back all the time. Yeah, there's a lot. It's silly season happens with the managers too.
It's like herpes. You never really get better. You never really get rid of it.
Never goes away.
Manager.
Yeah, there you go.
Binotto. Oh, Binotto, you're like a sexually transmitted disease. Welcome back to Formula One.
Yeah.
So all eyes are on Piastri and Gasly, especially because the two cars behind are Hamilton and Perez. You've got a Mercedes, you've got a Red Bull, and then it gets real interesting because they are dueling for P4. Lewis goes on a great move, ends up with some contact. We see carbon fiber flying. Perez ends up going backwards because of the damage he's got in his side pod. But Lewis gets a 5-second penalty. And I want to ask, do you think that's a bit harsh?
Absolutely. That was such a BS penalty. That was so annoying because they're racing.
Yeah.
They are racing. They're putting everything they've got into making this corner. You drift a little bit wide. These cars are not in slots. They're not on rails.
Yeah.
I thought that was one of the dumbest.
I had to double check and make sure it wasn't Russell. Or I was like, wait, it was Hamilton? What?
Yeah, I thought that was bullshit. Yeah, I did as well. I thought that was.
Yeah.
It's exactly the kind of racing you want.
Yeah.
It's not like anybody turned into anybody else.
Right.
It was in slick conditions while fighting for a position, and I understand it was bad for Perez, but it ended up being bad for Lewis as well. So it's just a lose-lose for everyone.
And it looked like he tried to give him space, but just wasn't, and
here's the fear. You start penalizing for stuff like that. Are the drivers going to be reluctant to even make moves because they're going to, take penalties? They're like figuring, well, it's not worth it. It's not 100% there for me. So I'm not going to make the move. I thought the FIA was trying to create really good, tight racing, not penalize drivers for taking those types of chances that we all want to see.
Yeah, no, I don't know if you've seen it on Twitter or X. Screw X, it's Twitter. Karen Chandok shared, he was saying, I think it's a bit harsh that Lewis got a penalty because he showed a clip from the London E-Prix. Stoffel Van Dorn went up the inside to turn one and literally just hit the car and spun it around and no penalty. It's fine. Yeah. Wow, he did a torpedo. We haven't seen that since Petrov or whatever his name was. It was pretty crazy. Lewis gets kind of screwed because he loses a bunch of positions at the end because it's all quite tight. But let's talk about Max. Great job. He wins by 6 seconds. But Piastri second and third, Gasly, which is great for two reasons. One, awesome result for Alpine. But two, as we know, 4 years ago, Pierre Gasly's best mate, Antoine Hubert, died at Spa in an F2 race. And so it's always nice. I think Gasly, it's a pretty special race for him every year. So for Gasly to be able to pull off that, a great podium, a great result, I thought, awesome. Wow. A great little story.
Incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah. Okay. Then we wake up this morning, we log in for the race. It's bone dry, and so am I. I was going to do it for all of them. But the big story is Verstappen, he's got 5 drivers to get through, and then we have the first corner, and then Max has 3 cars to get through because like we covered, Sainz, his car is wrecked and just goes backwards, and Piastri's race is over. And that was such a... I would have liked to have seen Max had to work for it a bit more.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know what Sainz was really thinking there. He clearly had Piastri to his side. He, even if he didn't see Piastri or couldn't see him, he didn't, blitz past him so far that he wouldn't, plausibly be on the inside of that turn. I don't know. Maybe I'm analyzing that wrong.
Yeah, I mean, did he lock up because of that, or was the lockup
Yeah, he locked up.
Into
Hamilton was on the left, so he gave Hamilton a bit of room. And also, some of the other guys, the drivers were saying is with Piastri going up the inside, that's an experience thing. You've seen that go wrong in Spa many times. Yeah. So it's kind of what he should have done is back off. But of course, he's excited. He's fighting position as he should be. And unfortunately, it didn't pay off. And then quite interestingly, by the first chicane, after that long straight, Perez has already got Leclerc. So Perez is off in the first. And for a minute, I guess we're all thinking, okay. The commentators saying, all right, race is on. Get your elbows out, Perez.
Oh yeah, Perez is in this. Perez was in this race too. Oh my God. Sorry, it's been a while.
But it's
he needed this.
Yeah, he did.
He did. He was up front, but so started 44 laps of just overtaking. I could barely keep up. There's absolutely no point trying to take notes of the incidents on track because there were hundreds of them. It's great. It was so much fun to watch. There were awesome overtakes by everybody happening left, right, and center.
Yeah.
And really is that a testament to this track that it's so long and so twisty and
I think it's two things.
Wide, there's room. It's compared to a Monaco where that's what it is.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think it's 3 things now I think about it. One, it is the track. 2, all of the cars have become a lot closer. But 3, because it's a sprint weekend, nobody had any data on the tires. So no one kind of knew what was going to happen. We saw that very quickly, that there were people pitting after 7 laps because their softs weren't working. You know, so like no one had any data. So it was all kind of random. So that was quite interesting, that it certainly did throw sort of a lot of balls up in the air that people were trying to catch.
Yeah, and that has a lot to do with the track temperature, wearing like just different levels, wearing the tires down.
Yeah, but it also has to do with, that's the upside to sprint weekend, is they only get 1 practice session. And because that practice session was kind of moist as well, no one had any real data on dry running. So they had no idea what tire to put on, how long it would last, which one would be good.
They don't know it's a sprint weekend until that weekend? Like, is it random?
No, we know. Okay. Yeah, they knew it was. It's just we had.
Well, I don't.
It's a surprise to me.
I don't know what any of this shit does.
Ryan, you're doing a great job, man.
Yeah,
you're doing great.
But I mean, I guess I'm saying, because the sprints are so new, do they know what tracks they're when they plan the season out? They kind of know what
they announce at the beginning of the season that these will be the six races.
Oh, I should probably look into that.
No, keep it a surprise.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. It's a sprint weekend.
I don't want to know. I don't want to know until Friday morning when Ollie texts me, "Oh shit, there's a sprint race this weekend."
I like to keep it like my vacations. My wife plans everything. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. What time is the plane? Okay, great. Where are we going? Wonderful.
Just sandwich after sandwich after sandwich.
No, let's talk. I want to talk about Albon and the Williams for a minute, because at the beginning of this race, he was looking awesome. The Williams was fast. And I just, a couple of years ago, they were just week after week at the back of the pack, just, the whipping post of the F1 grid. And they have definitely made gains. They have definitely made improvements. They're looking good. And then after as racy as they looked, I just checked the leaderboard at the end of the race, and Albon somehow finished down in 14th. Now,
other people were getting good races. I mean, the other one was the McLarens. In the dry were rubbish. But they were perfectly set up for the wet. So that was kind of unfortunate that in the dry race they were kind of like a non-event. I mean, I guess Norris, because Piastri was already out. But yeah, I think I want to talk about Albon as well, because I think his maturity as a driver, I think he's really up there now. I think, he got promoted to Red Bull for a reason, but it was too soon. And for him to come back, since he's come back, that guy is solid. Like, he put in some great moves. There was some great overtakes from him. Yuki Tsunoda had some great overtakes as well. Gasly, the 2 Ferraris. I mean, honestly, the list could go that there were some ballsy moves. And the fact that we had no sort of contact,
and Sainz had some really great overtakes. They just weren't his. It was just him being overtaken.
He was overtaking in reverse.
Yeah. Or are they undertakes at that point? I don't know. You guys tell me.
He's the Undertaker.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Sainz for a minute. You saw the damage to his side pod, and if you guys caught that radio message, 5% aerodynamic loss. Now that is to me is insane, because 5% in most things in the world is not a whole lot, right? But 5% just turned him into an absolute doormat, and people were racing right by him just because he had some carbon fiber flapping on the side.
But I wonder too. I mean, does he feel like just that bit of air, like that effect to your car as a driver mentally, to try and navigate this thing? Like we talk about, these guys are like fighter pilots at the top of their game. It's like, if you were in a plane and they're like, hey, we have 5% of your wing is kind of screwed up right now, you're probably not going to operate at like 100%. You're kind of like, you're taking risks.
So you think the 5% aerodeg turned into more of a 25% loss because of the mentality that came
maybe
with it?
I don't know. He wasn't able to push as hard. And
if he stayed out there, I'm throwing my car into Eau Rouge at 200 miles an hour, and I don't know if I can trust the aero.
Yeah,
I'd probably lift.
Okay, all right, good point. Wayne Punto.
But again, if we're banking on Ferrari strategy,
exactly. Honestly, it was an interesting. They kept him out for a long time, and I just retire the car, which they did eventually.
They were hoping for like a red flag or something with weather where they can swap, because you can't just casually swap out a side pod on like a normal pit.
You are correct that yes, they could do some work on the car.
I'm getting it.
Look at you, Ryan.
But that would have been a lot. I think it would have been a lot of tape
to bang on that. Yeah.
Speaking of weather, let's talk about the blue balls that came with the weather.
Yeah.
I mean, I was sitting there like this, hey, come on, let's have some rain come down. And it never really came.
Yeah.
Neither did I.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that 10 minutes of rain where everyone was just like, all right, a couple of cars were able to kind of bang on the softs. Like Norris's car came alive in the wet, didn't it? He was going around the outside of people as well. But yeah, that never quite delivered. But we did get the return of Sass Verstappen. Pretty interesting part where he's behind Perez, and Perez is going to pit, and Max is ready to go. Yeah, okay. So what's he doing? Just drive the car, Max. We're going to pit when you pit. No, I want to know. I want to know. It was such a petulant kid. It just no, I want to know. I'm Max Verstappen. I want you to tell me right now what he's going to do right now. And GP's like, no.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, your future team principal, Max Verstappen.
Ooh, 10, 15 years from now, that would be interesting.
Oh my God.
His dad still wouldn't be proud of him. I like them cutting to his father is maybe my favorite thing that they do, and his just the look. Has that man ever been like not disappointed?
They cut to him. Was it during qualifying? I can't remember. Like I said, there's so much happened this weekend, but there was a bit where he was just in red light as well. It's almost like he had evil guy light on him just so they could cut to him. But quick, cut to Verstappen. He looks like a bad guy.
Why is his dad Emperor Palpatine? I think I said to you guys, I'm like, oh man, if Max places first, he's guaranteed a handshake with eye contact from his daddy. No verbal cues. He's not going to say good job, I'm proud of you. It's just handshake, eye contact, on your way.
Hey, you can make the argument it's working, right?
Yeah, I mean, tough love, or I don't know.
The one thing he can't win is his dad's approval. Sorry, Max. Sorry. But the pits happen as it works out. By lap 17, Max has chewed up Perez. Irrelevant of Sass Verstappen. He's off. He's gone. But then let's actually just jump in and talk about the return of Sass Verstappen. And we were talking earlier about hubris, because he comes into pits for softs. He's got about 15 laps to go, and GP comes over the radio, kind of ticking him off, like, so Max, you kind of went a little hot out there on the softs. Probably not the smartest idea. And
dead air, just dead air.
Yeah, and we're all waiting. Where's the response? The response comes one lap later with the fastest lap of the race from Max, makes his point. But then he comes over the radio going, so the GP's like, yeah, all right, you may have cooked off your tires now. And Max goes, yeah, okay, well, how about we just, I open up an entire pit stop of gap on Perez, and we do a practice pit stop. And you just hear Red Bull go, no, Max.
I was at that moment, I was like, oh, I hope he punctures a tire, this prick. You never want to see that, but a part of me was like,
and that's what I eat up about Verstappen. That's what I love about it. He is a professional asshole who's at the top of his game, and he can basically he can do whatever the hell he wants because he's got the talent to back it up.
Because he's Dutch. Because he's Dutch.
My notes just say the balls on this guy.
Yeah. Oh my God. The red balls.
Because let us not forget that during the little rainy period, Max had a wibble wobble in the middle of Eau Rouge, and he's gone off Eau Rouge in that exact position.
Thinking about that, and I can't. It's kind of like that moment where if you've ever you've been at work, you're sitting at your desk, and you kind of lean back on your chair, and you hit that apex where you're about to topple over, and your whole life flashes before your eyes. That's kind of what I picture in my mind. It's except way more dangerous.
Yeah, it's that with 7 Gs.
Yeah,
I could watch that. I could watch Eau Rouge all day long.
Yes,
that is my favorite corner in Formula One. It is my favorite. It's just
there is a Twitter account. I follow it called Eau Rouge. It just shows clips of cars driving through that corner.
I have to sign up because it is just so damn exciting. And you got to imagine the forces, the left, the right, and then that hard uphill. They're probably just, slammed into the seat.
Oh my God, yeah.
It's stunning.
So fast
Love it. They must be squeaking out a fart every time they do that from the pressure. It was crafty, actually, was the one that I didn't like. It's kind of hard to put in perspective how big the elevation change is on the track, they were like, "Oh, have you ever looked at Big Ben? That's how much elevation change."
Yeah,
there
it's
was on the
crazy.
track." I'm like, holy cow,
Yeah.
it's
That's pretty
insane.
neat.
But come on, like to go back to kind of like, that was the moment that I had the exact thought that Ryan had, is surely Max is setting himself up for a thorough embarrassment of a moment, because the hubris of just telling his team to get bent. Yeah, well, look, what, is Perez going to threaten me? No, I'll just drive 22 seconds faster. And then he makes the point of, what does he do? Finishes the race 22 seconds ahead of Perez, just to make that final point to Red Bull.
Yeah.
Oh, look what I did. Did I cook my tires off? Did I?
I feel like it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And then when that does happen, what's going to be the recovery time with it? Is that going to like seep into his psyche and mess with his, his mental ability?
He'll be like, it was fine. What am I? Am I going to lose the championship? Suck my balls.
Max may be Dutch, but I'm pretty sure he was built by Boston Dynamics. There is something very different about him. And I'm 100% into it. Love it.
I mean, he's Val Kilmer from Top Gun. He's
but without the charm. Like, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And I think he just comes off as like, it's one thing to have the confidence to it, but
that's why I like it. Because, and I think that's why I love Kimi Räikkönen so much, because Kimi Räikkönen had that same kind of bent, get out of my face kind of attitude.
But he's not, so he's not like Russ Wheeler from Days of Thunder, where he's got the charm and he's got the balls and he can pull it off.
He's not Carrie Elwes, basically.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. If it was Carrie Elwes, he'd be amazing. Though I do like that on basically a perfect weekend where Max has gone out and he's had poles and he's had wins and he's just taking it, that right at the end, Lewis decides to just screw his perfect weekend and steal the fastest lap. I was like,
imagine if he didn't. Imagine that didn't work out in his favor.
I was worried for a sec because he put mediums on.
Yeah, I was wondering that too. But I like the strategy is to wait for Max to finish the race before he could actually attempt the fastest lap to make sure he doesn't have time to pit again. And
because Max crosses the line, then they have to vamp for 22 seconds until Perez crosses the line with Leclerc, and then there's another 20 seconds until Hamilton. That's
Max
just the top four.
Max could have stopped dead in the middle of that race and just flipped it in reverse to go back to the pit, to go through, to get fresh tires on, to do it again. Is what it seems like.
I have wondered, in a case like this, why not slow Max down? Not that he ever would have listened, but to have that 1-2 kind of parade across the finish line with both Red Bulls, get that picture, get that, and it's even.
Do you hear yourself?
Yeah.
Do you hear yourself right now?
I know. As soon as I said slow Max,
they were
down,
even saying, do you think like Max still owes Checo one for what he, for Brazil? And they're like, are you out of your mind?
Yeah, Max doesn't give a shit about Perez. He wants to. Meek rhymes with weak.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you are weak. Come on, come on. You tried it for a second. You thought you could. Yeah, I'm Max Verstappen, bitch.
But, I mean,
it was an entertaining race, though. Spa is always fun to watch. High speed, lots of passing. Still curious as to know why Williams wound up so slow when they looked so much better.
I mean, so in the end, it was Verstappen, Perez, Leclerc in third. We haven't even talked about him, but okay, Ferrari actually managed to get a podium out of this one. Well done, guys.
Who?
Hamilton and Alonso in fifth as well.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice to see, Alonso, he had a bit of like, we heard him over the radio. Because they were admitting, they've been talking about it. Yes, we brought in upgrades and they ended up being downgrades. We shouldn't have done that. So the improvements they made to the car made the car shit, which is really unfortunate. So maybe they can take them off, because everyone gets to go and play golf and post Instagram pictures on the side of yachts for the next few weeks, because we enter the dark times. The summer break is here. I think the one thing I'm thinking about now as we go into the break is what Ryan was saying at the beginning, is maybe the biggest story of this year is Max going to win every race? Because the welcome back that we have is Zandvoort. We're going to Belgium is the country where he was born, but Zandvoort is the country of his nationality. So that could be our welcome back from the summer break, is Max at home with 300,000 rabid Dutch fans, all of them armed with smoke.
It's the perfect setup for an implosion. Like,
It
is the bubble gonna burst? Probably not. But If
But
it
we-
were to, you heard it here first.
But we can dream.
If there was ever a race to go to and party, Zandvoort would be amazing. The Dutch know how to party.
Cut
the
to a month
Dutch
from now,
really
we're like,
do it
Yuki
well.
Tsunoda, what? He did it out of nowhere.
Nick De Vries come back? Yeah, God, I didn't even get to race at Zandvoort. Poor De Vries. All right, guys, I think we've very much covered it. It was, like Nick said, a very interesting race. You couldn't take your eyes off the screen, otherwise you'd be missing action, which is wonderful. Yeah, Max won, but at least he kind of had to work for it a little bit. So we'll take what we can get. We'll take the table scraps. Thank you, Max Verstappen. I honestly, this is what I want to see. We've always enjoyed Yuki on the radio. I want more Sass Verstappen. That's what I want. Sass Verstappen, hubris, balls, big moves. That's what we want to finish off the season with it. At least that's what I'm hoping for.
Just push that button on your Sky Q, Sky Glass, Sky Blue, Sky Purple device, and you'll be able to hear all you want, Ollie.
The Sky Blue balls.
I push the red button on my remote and it just turns my TV off.
Fellas, always a pleasure to talk F1 with you guys.
It sounds like you're attempting to wrap up here. Are you?
Was there more? Was there another race?
Upshift Creek and Upshift Awards.
Yes, my awards. You're right. I forgot to turn the page. Brilliant. Thank you, Nicholas. Yes, one thing that we do like to do on this podcast is to hand out our awards. We hand out the Upshift Award for the driver or the team or anyone that had just a particularly excellent weekend. And we also hand out the Upshift Creek Award for the driver or team that was Upshift Creek without a paddle. Let's start with the Upshift Award, guys. I've got 3 names on my list. Oscar Piastri, Pierre Gasly, and some fella called Max Verstappen. Where are we landing?
Interesting. I actually was going to give my Upshift Award to Alonso. I think he ran a good race. Finishing 5th isn't great, but they bounced back from kind of a dismal weekend with their previous upgrades. And Alonso finishing ahead of Stroll, finishing ahead of George Russell. I thought, okay, you know what, Alonso?
But Alonso did break a car. He did drive it into the wall.
but he barely hit the wall. Like, I mean, if you watch that again, he just does like a 720 kickflip McTwist, but he doesn't hit the wall. Like, he spins out a bunch, but the car was.
You're right. He beached himself on the gravel. But I'd argue, I'd say like that's just indicative of Nick not giving a shit about sprint races. What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. He came 5th. It's fine. What were you thinking about, Ryan?
Oh man, I was initially going to give it to Ferrari for like looking good, early on this weekend. Unfortunately, it kind of fell apart, obviously, to today on Sunday. But my Upshift free. Are we doing?
We're just doing Upshift.
We're doing Upshift.
Yeah, I mean, you got to give it to Max. I mean, just for his radio chatter alone. God, I hate to do it, but I'm gonna do it.
See, I can't give it to Max because he failed to get that final point. So for me, that's a total failure of a weekend.
You're pulling a Joss Verstappen right now.
Yes.
Daddy, I started 5th.
No.
As he tightens the belt.
Oh, jeez.
But I'm gonna go with Oscar Piastri because he had a great weekend and it was wonderful to see a rookie up there, battling out with Max Verstappen. So, credit to where credit's due, especially in the tricky conditions, Oscar Piastri. What about Upshift Creek? Because I've got Aston Martin because they stacked 2 cars into the wall, despite what Nick says. I've got Alpine for firing everyone too early, or I've just got F1 for the sprint format.
I'll do mine first because it's an easy one. I'm just going to give it to the rain because how dare you have to make me do mental gymnastics to try and figure out tire strategy, which I already don't understand.
And then blue balling us in the race as well.
It. Yes.
Right.
How dare you?
I agree.
That's a good one.
The rain, Upshift Creek. Yes, there you go. You're getting the rain from me as well. What about you, Nick? Anyone else I wasn't thinking about?
Well, see, now you both go for something witty and clever, and now I'm sitting here looking at the leaderboard thinking, which one of these? Nobody really stunk up the joint.
No. They didn't. That's why it was actually quite hard this week. That I'm like, a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Yeah, but I don't know if I have to pick somebody. Logan Sargent.
Yeah.
Logan Sargent coming in 17th in what looked to be a pretty quick Williams. They keep showing promise, but they're still not delivering.
They keep saying how fast that car is in a straight line, but I don't know if you guys know this, but these tracks have like a lot of turns to them. So maybe make the car faster at those bits.
See, yeah, if Formula One was a drag race, Williams would win. But every now and again, the bloody corners turn up, screw everything up.
Like, is Logan Sargent used to being in like an Indy car? I don't understand. I don't know.
Oh, hey, let's be real quick. I don't want to get too off topic, but and this, no disrespect to the Indy fans out there or the sport itself. I used to love Indy. I tried watching it last weekend, and my God, those cars look slow compared to F1.
Yeah. And they just go in a circle, right? That they do like a NASCAR turn, like a ring.
They do have road courses and stuff, but yeah, the one I was watching was an oval, and it looked so slow, and I'm like,
it's so funny you say that. I was at breakfast much later after watching the Grand Prix, and it's just on the TV. I'm like, what? How do you enjoy? Like, how? It's. I mean, yeah, like you said, no disrespect to fans of that sport.
Yeah.
I don't watch it, but
there's a real science to it. It's like it's same with NASCAR. Is that when you watch it for a while, you realize that a overtake gets set up 3 laps earlier.
Yeah.
You know, it's all about just constant momentum. But it's. I think I didn't realize the speed difference really, Nick, until I think it was one time that we were at Right This Minute and we were just dicking around in between shoots, and we found like it was that amazing set of like corners from COTA, from the Circuit of the Americas, the sweeping left and they get tighter every time, and it was a side by side of they put like NASCAR through it, and they put like a champ car through it, and then they put an Indy car through it and an F1 car all at the same time, and just that was when you're like, oh my God, F1 is so much faster.
Yeah. And Indy cars are not slow. I mean, they're doing 215, 220 on these ovals, so they're not slow.
Are they F2 or an F3 car? Because in F2, all the cars are the same, right? Like,
so Indy is kind of like that, isn't it?
Each part is unique.
Like it's Indy.
Not that I'm aware of.
F2, you all have the same car. Yeah, it's kind of like NASCAR that you all have the same. You're allowed to sort of like tweak it, but it's not
the builds.
That's what keeps the cost down in F2. So I think Indy is along the same lines, is it not? That they've all got a sort of like a similar chassis that you've got to kind of like use.
We should probably stop talking about this.
I'm sure our fans will let us know.
The fans are screaming right now. Like, what are you talking, you idiots? Shut up.
Okay, well, join us for the Upshift Creek Indie edition next week as we try to figure it out. No, we'll probably take a break during the summer break as well. We might bring an episode into, maybe we'll find someone interesting to interview, or maybe just talk memes at some point. Oh, speaking of memes, we've got to go to the Dank Zone, Ryan.
I mean, you're gonna breeze right past it. I was in the chat. I'm like, box. No comment. You gave me a Max Verstappen cold breeze. But yeah, I got some memes. We can talk about them. Let me pull them up here. Let's see. I'm sure I know our listeners love hearing us talk through memes.
Watch us on YouTube.
If you're listening at home, watch us on YouTube.
I'm honest. I don't like the meme zones.
All right, Dad.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to participate, boomer. The kids love it. Why don't you go walk around Home Depot or something?
This meme is Nick. It's Annie from Parks and Rec. I don't understand sprint format, and at this point, I'm too afraid to ask. There you go, Nick. The meme for you there.
Yeah. I had this one set up for.
Listen, you know what I'm hoping for? Here's what I'm hoping for. At the end of the season, the battle for midfield, I'm hoping it comes down to 1 point between like Aston Martin and the McLarens. And it was like the 1 point that was scored at the Belgian sprint race was the decision maker. Then I'm like, okay, that's fun. But
it's so funny you bring that up, because I'm wondering, I'm like, how much those points mean to those teams, because that sets a precedent for like next season and like their front. Like, how does that kind of play into it?
Unshare your screen for a second and we can talk about that if you want. Because when it comes down to points and positions in the championship, a point can be worth millions of dollars.
That's crazy. I don't think enough people. I definitely never realized the gravity of how much that means. I'm like, here you have like someone like a Yuki or someone fighting for 10th place. I'm like, why does it matter? Or like, but in the scope of like the constructor series, I know
it matters in the constructor series. And when you've got low scoring teams, you know, where there's only, you only got 1 point, 5 points, 10 points. If on a random weekend, they can have like a real points haul, that means tens of millions of dollars in prize money and for your car and stuff like that. So, you know, Nick is not wrong that there is still a championship being fought. It's just not for first.
Yeah,
but
I mean, between Aston Martin's third, 196 points, Ferrari 191 points, McLaren 103 points. You get a sprint weekend where, you know, 2 of your cars score points. You've suddenly gone from, you know, 5th to 3rd. So
I wanted to ask this too. In the sprint race, if you get the fastest lap, is there an additional point for that as well?
No, there is not.
So it's only really the Grand Prix where you get that fast. Okay.
Yeah, and you have to be
in
top 10,
right?
To be able to do that.
Interesting. Cool. Thanks for the homework assignment, or the lesson rather.
Red Bull has 503 points.
But isn't our Aston Martin in the constructors? Aston Martin and Mercedes are very
close.
Yeah, right. So it's a huge deal.
Well, Aston Martin and Ferrari are closer.
Right.
Somebody brought up.
Maybe it's Alonso and Hamilton are close.
I think they were a lot closer before this weekend. I think there was only a point in it. Someone, I think it was on Formula Dank, but they posted the championship, and it's like it's all of the teams' points, and then up top it's Max Verstappen. Like he's got more points than all the other teams.
Yeah, and it's like 400, and it's insane. I mean,
so
he's
Max
trying to
is
beat his high
the
score.
Constructors Championship as well.
So you're saying next year they only need one driver?
Probably. Max will drive one, and then he'll drive another one by remote control because he's bored.
Whoa, that sounds. I mean, he does a lot of sim racing, so I mean, it's possible.
I know he doesn't get distracted by his girlfriend's.
I heard he's got a sim racing thing in his private plane, so he can practice in between.
Does he
flights.
really?
I
bet he bloody does. Yeah, the fact that he's got his own plane is absolutely ridiculous. I love
he
it.
flies it too.
Fast. Really fast.
He doesn't ask for permission to land, he just lands.
I'd love to see like a text or a phone argument between him and his girlfriend. If it's anything like his team chatter. You know, like, I told you to get this at the grocery store, and it's just not.
No. All right, back to the Dank Zone. Anyway, some beams.
Yeah, sorry.
No.
I didn't mean to get sidetracked there. This was great. All I see is
entire podcast is sidetracked. Yeah. Next up, what do we got?
Hold on, I gotta move this because I can't see my tabs. I got this one. Sorry, it's loading here.
So it says when Max finishes P1 but without fastest lap and begs for one more pit stop, it's just got Jos Verstappen on screen with the subtitle "pathetic." He does look miserable, doesn't he?
This man has never smiled, right? Him and Toto Wolff should hang out.
You know, the Verstappen family needs to call up some producers at the Drive to Survive and say, okay, you know what? Do a feature on us. We got to show the world that this isn't Darth Vader. And
Max, he had to have his arm twisted before he had to win the championship before he'd even think about doing Drive to Survive, man. Bring him on. What's next, Ryan? That's a good one.
Yeah.
This man is an absolute menace. It's Verstappen's radio. Yeah. I could also push on and we do another stop, a little bit of pit stop training. It's like I screamed when he said that.
Fucking balls on this guy.
That was awesome.
Oh my God.
That level of confidence must be so intimidating to the rest of the grid.
My whole time watching the race is a testament to how good this subreddit is, because every time I'm like, oh, that's going to be a thing. That's going to be a thing. That's going to be a thing. But my expectations are always subverted because everyone on the subreddit is so creative.
You spot the memes. Yeah. I do like doing that. Come on, let's keep going.
I wish I had the timing and was clever enough to contribute.
Yeah, we do too, Ryan.
Such an inspiring drive from Danny today, beating Sainz and Piastri. So it's just, Danny with his thumbs up. Of course, Sainz and Piastri being the two that didn't finish the race. But hey, you can spin it any way you want when you're a fan of Danny Rick.
Yeah, and I still am. I don't care how shitty he drives.
It's the relieving looking Robert Downey Jr. meme, but it's the Spa F1 P1 trophy realizing that Lando isn't on the podium. I did make sure to stay all through the podium just to see if there was any more drama. But
shout and credit to McLaren for taking to social media and really just nailing it home last week after the incident. You know,
they were having fun with that one.
God bless. Like, let them fight.
let them fight. Oh,
it wouldn't be another weekend without this one.
Every single week, it's the Ferrari pit wall clown meme. Yep, we see the damage. Carry on for now. Yeah, no, just retire the bloody car. That's just every week. Everyone's like, who's going to be the first one to get the Ferrari meme?
Yeah, exactly.
It's every week as well. It's the cool down room, which someone has very quickly already photoshopped in an entire studio for Max Verstappen's podcast. And on screen in the background, you've even got the previous meme. These people are geniuses. Who's this? Influence dash fragrant. There you go. You get your credit on Formula Dank.
I love the logo, the little Max Verstappen experience logo. Great work, guys. Honestly,
top work.
I mean, you keep this thing going. I love it.
Last one. Lewis. It's the old lady from Game of Thrones. Tell Max I got fastest lap. I want him to know it was me, with Lewis Hamilton. I love that one. That's great.
Great stuff. Oh man, it's always fun. That's always fun.
Oh, the Dank Zone.
The hardest part is not going onto that subreddit during the race.
Yeah. It is fun if you're watching a race live to watch the memes. It's within seconds. People must have folders ready.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
It is something, as is this season, as was this podcast, guys. Thank you very much for the awesome chat. Thank you, everybody else at home. If you are watching, please like, subscribe, click that little bell for notifications. We do like to put up little clips and shorts as well. You can find us on TikTok, Upshift Creek F1. You can find me online as Ollie_Pettigrew or that Englishman in Texas. You can find Nick as NS Calderon. If he ever uses social media, usually he's just sending me memes.
Exactly.
As much as he bitches about the memes, he sends me so many memes during the week.
Well, there's no one else. Who else are we going to send them to that's going to appreciate it? You know,
my wife every now and then.
We don't have a very deep bench here. We don't have a very deep bench. You know, we gotta.
And you can find Ryan's t-shirt design for Upshift Creek if you're interested. The one that I think Nick, are you wearing it today? I don't think you are.
Not today. I've worn it 3 weeks in a row. I was getting a little.
Had to wash it. You can find that. Is it Threadless?
It is on Threadless. Yeah, we can link to it.
Rhino Digital, RYNO Digital, all one word. Fellas, enjoy your summer break. Go enjoy your yachts. Go hang out with supermodels, and we'll see you back.
Are you talking about us?
I am indeed. But we'll see you back in a few weeks' time when Zandvoort comes around to talk about just how badly Max Verstappen screwed up.
Yeah. Sure. See you, boys.
Thanks for watching, guys.